The 2027 silly season for IndyCar has officially begun, with Dixon announcing that he is no longer going to be returning to Chip Ganassi Racing, potentially heading to McLaren. This time around, the silly season for IndyCar looks to be an insane one. Welcome to Racing Insights. My name is Aryan, and I am ready to dive into this and try and figure out where everybody is going to land up. And that's not going to be an easy task because, to be quite honest, I don't understand what some of these teams are doing choosing the drivers they are. Now, first and foremost, this is the first IndyCar video I am making on the channel, and I will admit that I am not as much of an IndyCar head as some of you guys might be in the comment section down below. So feel free to obviously correct me on any situation that I'm talking about in this video. I've only been following IndyCar properly. I used to obviously watch the Indy 500 since the 2017 one, 2016 one, I think it was. I think it was the 2016 one that I watched first, and then, you know, watching full seasons, I've only started doing that since 2022, 2023. So it's only a recent love that I've had for IndyCar. I would say love. There are times I feel frustrated with what they do, especially with, like, for example, the hybrid mechanism that they've added. I just don't think it adds to the racing in any way, shape, or form. In fact, I think it deters from the racing. But hey, you know, I'm still enjoying watching some of the racing. I think they do a fantastic job, to be quite honest, at times, with especially the oval side of things. I think it's a lot of fun to watch. So I'm very interested in obviously getting into it more and more and more. And I think this YouTube channel and learning more from you guys, as well as just learning myself, you know, with all the information that's available on the internet, I'm very excited to get into it, you know. So let me know, of course. Like I said, correct me if I am wrong, okay? Now, if we take a look at Andretti first, let's go over Andretti first and foremost. So Will Power and Kyle Kirkwood are already confirmed. They are contracted to at least 2027. They could be bought out, but I don't think that's going to be the case for Andretti. I think, you know, Will Power has had bad luck. I think he's performed really well. I mean, if you look at some of the recent races, he's been up there constantly. Unfortunately, due to either bad strategy, bad tire management, generally bad luck even sometimes, it's not gone his way necessarily. But I do think he's getting more and more used to the Andretti team as a whole. And Kyle Kirkwood, it's unfortunate because I think he had a really good start to the season, and in classic Andretti fashion, again with strategy, pit stops, I think it's just gone wayward for him, unfortunately, and he's no longer the primary contender to Alex Palou's championship run, of course, right? So that is a problem in that sense. Now, when we look at the number 28 car, of course, Ericsson currently takes control of that car and is driving for that car. Initially, at the start of the season, there was a lot of discussion about whether Ericsson would stay or not. And unfortunately for Dennis Hauger, for example, his performance recently has been actually really decent. You know, it's been pretty darn good, and so I don't see him potentially leaving the team. In fact, there has been suggestions already that Hauger is going to be effectively let go from the Andretti brand as a whole, and that he's gonna have to find a drive for himself, which I am a little bit surprised by. I thought they would have at least paid for another year for him, and then maybe following 2027 with potentially Will Power or Ericsson, depending on how he does next year, things can change. Because I feel like it's a bit of a risk taking him, you know, getting rid of Hauger when he is performing quite well, I would say. I mean, he was amazing in Indy Next last year, of course. So I would be very surprised. But then again, you have to also look at the junior category. You have to look at the junior category in the form of Indy Next once again and see who's coming through for, you know, that Andretti seat as well in the near future. Maybe not next year, but in 2028, right? So that is something to keep in mind. Now, obviously, big shout outs to Jacob Daly, at Jacob Daly. He is the one who made this, and it was inspired by Mama G-Force as well. These guys are on social media, Twitter and X. Let me just pull them up here. Yep, as you guys can see right here. These guys, you can see the ad just in the top right in the smallest amount. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, so they will be credited appropriately. they've also added a couple of other names. Hauger, of course, we mentioned, Rosenqvist, Lundgaard, and Herta. Obviously, Rosenqvist alongside Dixon, both of them announced they were leaving their respective teams just very recently. And Rosenqvist, I don't think is going to end up at Andretti. I do think he is most likely going to end up at McLaren. From what all rumors are suggesting, he is going back to McLaren. And I am a little bit surprised, considering the way they effectively dumped him. I am a little bit surprised at that, to be quite honest. Rosenqvist and Rossi were unceremoniously dumped, in my personal opinion. I think Rossi, it was fair. I think with the aero screen and everything that's been added onto the car, Rossi is no longer the same driver he once was way back when. Whereas in the case of Rosenqvist, I think he was performing well. I mean, this guy is a proven winner. I mean, you look at the Indy 500, you look at various other races where he is up there more often than not. I think it was a bit of a surprise that McLaren let him go that easily, but they were obviously looking at the likes of David Malukas. They were hoping to get Alex Palou, but then that whole contractual situation happened, which caused a lot of chaos in the IndyCar community, and also in the F1 community by extension because of what was happening. So it was quite insane to see. I am surprised he's going back that easily to McLaren, to be quite honest, but we'll come on to McLaren as a whole later on. I don't see him going to Andretti. Lundgaard, of course, is one of the names that is potentially going to be leaving McLaren, and it's a shame that he's going to be leaving the team, because I'm very surprised that they don't rate him that highly, considering he is the only race winner of the team this year. It's a bit of a shocker, to be honest, that they're letting go of him that easily. I think that he should be staying with the team. I think the bigger issue that again, I will talk about McLaren when we get to McLaren, but it's just bizarre to me. Do I think he'll end up at Andretti? I'd hope not, because I do see a very good driver in him. Yes, his oval performances aren't amazing, but I do think he deserves to be potentially at a Chip Ganassi Racing. Maybe not as like a main driver like Alex Palou is, but you get him on cheap and you can basically have him be a proven second gunner to a potential win at any track, at any road circuit at the very least. So there is that. And then you obviously have the normal name that's always going to be there because of his affiliation with Andretti, with his father being there and everything. Obviously, Colton Herta. Do I think he's going to come back? I don't think so. I think that F1 dream is still too juicy to let go of, and while he's not been performing well at in F2 at all this season, and it's due to various factors. You've got the usual Mechachrome shenanigans with potentially random allotment of getting a good engine, not a good engine, setup issues, whatever it may be, getting used to just driving a different car with new rubber. It's always a bit of a difficult challenge, and unfortunately, he's not been able to cope with it just yet. Maybe later on in the season, we'll see him improve. There have been moments that he's done well. I mean, Spain, he was running in the podium position, and then he just threw it all away in one go. Do I think he'll get that F1 seat? I've got my doubts on it, but you never know. You never know. It could still happen. So I don't think it's going to be Herta for 2027 either. I think out of all the names, I think Ericsson is going to stay on the most. Now, let's move on to Dale Coyne Racing, shall we? Let's move on to Dale Coyne Racing. We'll do the Honda boys, then we'll do the Chevrolet boys, all right? And girls, potentially. There might be a girl in there who might get a chance. So for Dale Coyne Racing, I think Grosjean is probably going to stay. I think that's going to be the case for the number 18. Obviously, as it says here, you guys can barely see it. It says Grosjean is well liked by the team, but Coyne can obviously throw a curveball. Don't expect anything. So Grosjean, Pearson, and Hauger are the three likely options for the number 18, and obviously by extension the number 19 with Tsunoda being added on. I don't see the Tsunoda deal happening just yet. I'll do both numbers in one go, both cars in one go. Tsunoda, I don't think is going to be there because I think he's too busy dealing with potentially getting a Haas drive next year over Ocon. So I'm assuming him and his agent and just generally the people around him are probably trying to push that more than the number 19 seat in IndyCar. You never know though, it might still end up happening if that Haas seat doesn't end up working out. But I think Grosjean is going to stick around. I think you've got an experienced head. It always helps as well. Yes, he may not be the same Romain Grosjean that we saw in his, mid part of his Andretti career, right? Where he was winning races, potentially doing a fantastic job. Yes, throwing it away. Well, not winning races, I should say. Getting podiums, coming close to winning races, being crashed out. He was still doing well, right? And generally he does well at most opportunities. I think he'll probably stay. Now, the number 19 seat, unfortunately, does require funding for Dale Coyne Racing, and Pearson will be probably bringing the most of it, which makes sense, of course, right? Hauger is less likely to get that seat purely because of what I mentioned earlier with that 28 car, is that Hauger, unfortunately, doesn't seem to have the backing of Andretti anymore, and Andretti is no longer going to pay for his seat, which is unfortunate, like I said, because I do think he's a solid driver, and that is a problem. So, yeah, it is unfortunate to say the least. But I think Pearson's gonna get it, unfortunately, because of that funding. He's gonna become he might do well. You never know. You've got the likes of Kiffin Simpson, who's doing well as, of course, one of those paying drivers. So I don't see a reason why Pearson might not be able to do well. Just depends on, of course, some good luck, of course. And they've got the Andretti connection as well, so you never know. You never know what might happen. Now we move on to Chip Ganassi Racing and Meyer Shank Racing. Now, obviously, I should mention for Meyer Shank Racing, Marcus Armstrong is no longer the number 66 car. He is the number 60 car. So he has been promoted to the number 60 car. It was officially confirmed literally just half an hour before I started recording this video. So there is that factor to keep in mind. In terms of Chip Ganassi Racing, Kiffin Simpson, Alex Palou, the number 8 and number 10 cars are locked in. I don't see that ever changing. Chip Ganassi have a bloody big superstar in Alex Palou. I mean, 3 championships, 3 Astra Cups, no, 4 Astra Cups actually, I think it is now, and an Indy 500 win. What more do you want from Alex Palou? And Kiffin Simpson, paying driver, like I said, but he's been actually doing a lot better than what people usually expect from him in yesteryears. I think he's actually doing pretty well. In terms of the number 9 car, obviously Scott Dixon leaving is a bit of a shame for the team. Of course, a long servant, a quarter of a century with the team. Insane, honestly insane. Who do I think is going to be going in there? I think it's going to be Lundgaard. They have to go for Lundgaard. I know that maybe Chip Ganassi might want another bullet in the chamber for an Indy 500, and maybe Lundgaard doesn't provide that. But I do think it would be the best option for Chip Ganassi Racing, purely because I think you've got at least another hole in the, or another bullet in the gun for your road races, your street courses. And that is, I think, also, I think as time goes on, if you want IndyCar to get bigger and bigger and bigger, you have to also prioritize the other races as well. The Indy 500 is always going to be your biggest diamond in the calendar, but you also have to kind of give priority to the other races. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to market those races and get more funds / sponsorship money. So I do believe they should try and this is my complaint with IndyCar as a whole. I feel like there should be more priority, more marketing also given to other races as well. Like, for example, the race after IndyCar was Detroit, I think, right? Why wasn't it marketed at all until like Wednesday or Thursday? Like, you should be riding off the hype of, the Indy 500, saying we're gonna be back and you're gonna be watching some amazing racing next weekend in Detroit. Why wasn't that the case? I don't know. So that's my personal opinion. So coming back to my point, I think Lundgaard should get the drive personally. I think he's a superstar as well. Couple of wins this season with a McLaren that's not really that good this season, to be honest. So I do think he deserves to have a chance at one of these top teams like a Penske or Chip Ganassi. We'll have to wait and see if he actually gets one of those, to be honest. We'll have to see. The other name is Browning, which I can see as well. Of course, a Williams Academy driver in Formula 1. Obviously doesn't have a real seat to go into unless Carlos Sainz or Alex Albon potentially says we quit and want to dip from that effectively subpar Williams team at the moment. It's possible Browning could go there instead, but I doubt it. I don't see that happening. I don't see Albon or Sainz letting go of a guaranteed F1 seat. So I think Browning does have an opportunity to come into IndyCar and get a seat here and then work on maybe like a IMSA IndyCar sort of like, dual run. But let's see. We'll have to wait and see on that front. Meyer Shank Racing, of course. We spoke about Marcus Armstrong getting that number 60 car. I think Marcus is a very underrated driver, I do believe. I feel like a lot of people say he's not got that complete package. And yes, maybe he may not be the complete package just yet, but he's damn close to it. And, you see his performances on ovals, road courses and everything. He's doing a good job, honestly. And I think he'll just continue to improve now that he's been promoted. The team has confidence in him, so I think he'll do well for sure. The number 66 car now, of course, we are gonna flip it around and talk about the 66 car because that's the one that's empty. You've got a plethora of names. Every free agent probably wants this seat, right? Your likes of VK, Colette, Lundgaard, Ericsson, Hauger, Johnson, Sebastian Montoya from Formula 2. Don't see Sebastian Montoya happening. Sebastian Montoya, as much as his father may want him to do well, and he himself will want to do well, and I think a lot of us were hoping he'd do well, being the son of a amazing Formula 1 IndyCar driver. He's not good enough. He's simply not good enough. I don't think he's gonna get the seat at all. I think out of all of these names, if on the ones that Jacobs put down, I want to say potentially the likes of, I could see a VK or Colette going in here, to be quite honest. I could see that happening. And the thing is, with Meyer Shank having that link to Chip Ganassi Racing, it's a great opportunity for one of these drivers alongside Marcus to get that shot at getting that number 9 seat potentially in the future if whoever is going in that number 9 doesn't work out, right? So I think it could make a lot of sense. I could also see, actually, speaking of Colette, with his performances this year, and if Chip Ganassi Racing wants to throw a roll of the dice and see what happens, they could also go for Colette in the number 9 seat as well. Do I see that happening? No, because I think if Lundgaard is a free agent, and while he may not bring the funds that maybe somebody else would, Colette with his Brazilian sponsorships and everything, I still do believe that Lundgaard is an overall better package for the team than a Colette is right now, at least, as a rookie, of course, right? With Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing, Graham Rahal, Louis Foster, and Mick Schumacher are expected to return. Obviously, Rahal Foster contracted, and Mick Schumacher is most likely to return. Do I think Mick Schumacher should return? No, I think he should just go back to World Endurance Championship. I think he's just better off there. He has done some really good performances in the World Endurance Championship, and in IMSA. He could do IMSA as well, potentially as well. I just don't think he's getting used to these IndyCar seats too well, to be quite honest. I just don't see him performing well. Every weekend has been a bit rough. Yes, he's been improving little by little, and maybe by the end of the season I can take back these words, but I generally just feel, more often than not, I just see him and I'm like, you could have been doing so well in World Endurance Championship. Of course, if he was still with Alpine, then he would have had to get another drive next year anyways, because Alpine is obviously folding. But with all the hypercar entries coming in, the likes of Ford, the likes of McLaren, and so on and so forth, I think he would have been better off staying there than being here and potentially, ruining his reputation even more by performing the way he is. But again, things can change, and potentially he might improve massively to where this is irrelevant. This whole discussion I had, irrelevant. So yeah, now we move on to Chevrolet, and we start off with AJ Foyt Enterprises. Now the teams are looking like holding Colette. The team is looking like it's going to hold Colette, but obviously with the open seats that are available at, for example, Chip Ganassi, Meyer Shank and all, Colette is going to be a bit of a hot prospect, being a rookie that's had good performances, so that can happen. Nolan Siegel, Rob Pearson, Sebastian Montoya. Obviously, these other names are mainly your paying names. Stingray Rob, paying. Pearson, paying. Siegel, paying. Sebastian Montoya, the name more than anything else, I would say. But yeah, if they can keep Colette, I think that's the best decision AJ Foyt can make, because he's been performing well. Another season where he's got the opportunity to grow further and maybe get some good performances in. So I think that'll make sense, to be honest. Now for the number 14 car, this season hasn't been good for Santino Ferrucci. And to be honest, since last season, I feel like he's just been dipping in form as the season went on. And then this season hasn't really started much better either, to be honest. So it's going to be interesting to see if they even want to keep Ferrucci. Of course, according to this, Foyt is looking for a meaningful uptick in results from Ferrucci, putting him under heavy pressure. I can see them not going for him potentially. You've also got the likes of Ericsson, VK, Daly, and Miles Rowe coming in potentially. I want to say, I think because of what he represents and just generally, I think while they've said it, I think they're going to stick with Ferrucci, to be honest. Could I see them going for somebody else? I could see them going for a Connor Daly. Because also that's another one that's like, just because of what he represents as a individual to the American audience, the American demographic, it makes sense to stick with that if AJ Foyt wants to continue with that route. But if they want performances, I think you've got to go for an Ericsson if he is available. Of course, I do think he's going to stay with Andretti, but you've got to stick with that Ericsson or you go for VK. VK is inconsistent is the best way to put it for VK. When he gets going, he is a star, but I genuinely believe there are more times than not where I just feel like, how did you end up there? Like last week you were nearly winning a race, and then this week where are you? Sometimes it's not his fault, but more often than not I'm just like, how the hell did that happen even? So yeah, and getting a younger driver in Miles Rowe, who obviously has been performing well in Indy Next for the most part, is a demon on ovals, by the way. I mean, that last to first race win recently, that was amazing from the kid. So I wouldn't be surprised if they go for him just because of that potential opportunity at an oval superstar in the form of Miles Rowe. Team Penske is completely locked in, and I don't see a reason why not. Joseph Newgarden, Scott McLaughlin, and David Malukas. I mean, right now, out of all the three, David Malukas has probably been their brightest star, to be quite honest. Hasn't had the opportunity to get a proper race win this season compared to like Joseph's 2 wins at ovals. But I do think David Malukas has been showing that level of performance that, we come to... we wanted to see potentially at when he got signed by McLaren. And then he had that wrist injury, unfortunately, and everything fell apart for him. But man, look at him now. He's back in IndyCar and with a top team in Team Penske. The kid's gonna go far. I think he's gonna do extremely well as time goes on. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a couple of wins this season before the season ends, of course. I think he's gonna get it. He's been close. He's gonna get it at some point. I think next year is make or break for Newgarden. McLaughlin, I think, has a little bit more time, but I think next year is make or break for Newgarden at Team Penske. He is still good at ovals, there's no doubt about that, but I do think there is going to be a time where it comes where Penske is going to be like, well, I think it's going to be time for you to move on. So let's wait and see on that front, to be honest. It's going to be very interesting to say the least what happens next year in 2027, when we're preparing to talk about the silly season for 2028. But yeah, I think it's going to be very fascinating to see what happens on the Team Penske front next year. But this year, nothing doing. It's going to stay the same. McLaren, the one that kickstarted all of this discussion. I don't know what they're doing, to be honest. Obviously, a lot of people are saying they're doing this to get 3 bullets in the chamber in the Indy 500. It's ridiculous, to be honest. It's ridiculous because Pato, of course, fair enough. Pato Ward, he's their star. He's their star boy. Do I think he's gonna stay after next year? No. I think he's actually going to move to potentially a Penske or a Chip Ganassi Racing. Chip Ganassi might actually leave a seat open, or not necessarily leave a seat open, but do a 1-year contract with the driver and then get Pato. Or Penske will get rid of Newgarden after next year and get Pato. It's very possible that might be the case. I don't know what they're doing. This is not the sign of a team that's looking to win championships or even consider innovating or trying something different. Because why are you getting a 45-year-old Scott Dixon? Like, come on, it's ridiculous. And similarly with Rosenqvist, I mean, like, don't get me wrong, Rosenqvist, great driver, and fair enough that they're bringing him back, but you made the mistake of letting him go in the first place. Like, come on, what is even happening with this team? I don't know what Tony Kanaan is doing. I know Zach Brown's left him to take the reins over the IndyCar team, basically, while he obviously handles the F1 side and obviously the developing World Endurance Championship program. But whatever Tony Kanaan is doing is unbelievable. Obviously, Rosenqvist is the lead potential for the other car that Scott Dixon obviously will be taking. Pato is number 5. Scott Dixon's probably going to be number 6, and the third driver is going to be number 7, right? Or it might be that the third driver is number 6 and Scott Dixon's number 7. We'll have to wait and see. But in terms of the third seed, basically, let's talk about that. Rosenqvist is obviously in the lead right now. That's all what everybody is saying. Fornaroli is, of course, McLaren's junior driver. He's currently their reserve driver, I think, in F1 as well. Do I think he could be moving to IndyCar? Potentially. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. Again, he's also another candidate that's potentially being touted for a Haas driver's seat alongside Tsunoda and Kamara if they are looking to replace Ocon. Well, that'll also play a factor. Armstrong, Lundgaard obviously stays as well. That's also not an impossibility. But I think with Rosenqvist leaving Meyer-Shank Racing, I think it's pretty much guaranteed that he's either going to Chip Ganassi or he's going to McLaren. It's one of the two, right? And then you have Browning. It's not looking good. I think they should just... I personally believe if I was McLaren, you stick with Pato, you stick with Lundgaard, and you get a Rosenqvist. Sure, that's fine. You let go of Nolan Siegel. I think Nolan Siegel has been their weakest point, of course, this year and last year. But would I replace him with a Scott Dixon that could retire like next year potentially? Or when I say next year, I mean 2028. No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do that. I would get somebody much younger or somebody who's a little bit more experienced to give you guys a chance at potentially developing a car that's capable of this. Now, of course, Scott Dixon has the experience, don't get me wrong. But when it comes to race day, is he going to be able to perform? That is the question you need to ask. And that's something I don't know if they can say is going to happen. Ed Carpenter Racing is looking to stick with Alexander Rossi and Christian Rasmussen. Christian Rasmussen just signed a contract recently up to 2028, and Rossi is also expecting a contract extension. Nothing's going to change there. I think Ed Carpenter Racing has two solid drivers that are obviously still delivering at intervals. I mean, they've obviously had some moments where unfortunately they've had some reliability problems, cars on fire and everything, but when the time has been right, I mean, look at the Indy 500, they were so close to potentially doing so well, and then of course they had the retirement, and before even the retirement in the race, obviously they had that massive crash in warm-up, right? Basically before the race began, a couple of days before the race, they had that massive crash with Alexander Rossi. It was a difficult one to watch, after doing so well, getting that pole. It's a shame. Not pole, but second place. Pole was Alex Palou. But yeah, I think it's a good idea for them to stick with Alexander Rossi and Christian Rasmussen. Juncos Hollinger Racing. Hollinger is trying to obtain full ownership of the team. I actually didn't know that. With a new co-owner investor replacing Juncos. Rumored investors include DRR and McLaren. If Hollinger gets full ownership, don't expect a pay driver to be in the second car. So VK's popularity has resulted in Juncos needing to look at other drivers. So yeah, potentially VK moving has caused that problem for the number 76 car. I think they'll stick with VK more likely than not, unless, of course, like I said, this seat, the number 14 seat, gets taken. I think that's the one that's the bigger prospect for VK. I see this number 60 going to a potential Colette or somebody else, to be honest. I don't see it going over to I don't see VK going to the number 60 car, personally at least. I could be wrong though, but yeah. Daly and Ericsson are the potential other options for VK. Yeah, they'll probably go for Connor Daly. He's done I think he's done a race or two for Juncos. I could be wrong though, but I'm pretty sure he's done a race already for Juncos Hollinger Racing. So I wouldn't be surprised if Daly goes back there. And then depending on the Hollinger ownership, the seat might be filled by a pay driver or not. So that's the number 77. So you've got a plethora of names: Ericsson, Eilert, Callum Eilert, Armstrong, Lundqvist, Daly, Robb, Siegel, Pearson. I'd love either Callum Eilert or Lundqvist to come back. back. Lundqvist didn't get the opportunity that he deserved, in IndyCar. And same with Callum Ilott. He got a couple of races, of course, in one of those smaller teams. I think it was Juncos. He was with Juncos back in 2022 or 2023, and then of course he went to Prema, but Prema had to fold because of all the issues they had with Iron Lynx not having enough funds to obviously bankroll the Prema program in IndyCar. That's caused a lot of issues, and as a result they're not on the grid this season. So I think I would love to see Callum Ilott and Lundqvist back in there, but do I think it's going to be one of them? Probably not. I think they'll be going for a pay driver, or if it's a co-owner coming in, they could potentially get one of their drivers that they want, or maybe a junior driver of some sorts or something coming in. We're gonna have to wait and see, of course, in that situation. But yeah, let me know what you guys think, of course, of this silly season. 14 seats unconfirmed, 25 seats on the grid guaranteed, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It's gonna be interesting. Not 25 seats on the grid, my bad. 14 seats are unconfirmed, but you have at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 seats guaranteed. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how things pan out. Y'all can let me know who you guys think is gonna get the seat specifically. I think the most interesting one is gonna be the number 9 seat for Chip Ganassi Racing, alongside potentially the number 28 for Andretti. But I think this domino, whatever this seat is filled by, I think the number 9, that's gonna fall. The dominoes for all the other seats. I think that's gonna be the big one in my personal opinion, because once that seat is filled, the other drivers will go for the, in my opinion, next best seat in Meyer-Shank Racing. Once Meyer-Shank is filled, then they'll go for the potentially the AJ Foyt one. I think the AJ Foyt one will be next, because obviously the link with Team Penske, you want to go for the AJ Foyt seats. Then, of course, I think it'll end up, depending on Juncos' partnership, it could be that people want to go for Juncos or Dale Coyne Racing. I think those are going to be the next ones. Like I said, I think McLaren is pretty much set as well, to be honest. I counted that as confirmed, so maybe my maths was wrong towards the end there. But anyways, let me know what you guys think. Obviously, this has been a pretty long video, not one that I was expecting to go and yap on for that much time. But hey, I love talking about transfers. Transfers, I say, signings, contract signings, seat signings, whatever you want to call it. It's always a little bit of fun and gives me some gossip to talk about. But yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Who do you guys think will end up where? And yeah, of course, if you guys enjoyed the video, remember to leave a like. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, take it easy, everybody. Bye-bye.